your job stories. Work can get crazy sometimes. As somebody who has once worked in a grocery store, you never know what could happen. Some crazy wild card event could unfold, and you never really know. It could be something really good, like, damn, I got a crazy tip today. Or some dude could just get up in your face and start yelling at you over groceries. Okay, so I was about 14. It was my first job. It was a babysitting job at a local church of mine. So it wasn't supposed to be anything crazy. I was with these two boys who were ages 2 to 4. And because they were so young, they didn't have any common sense. And at this job, I had a really shitty boss. She was just super passive aggressive and just not it. She would always miss paydays and blame me for it, which made absolutely no sense. Anyway, one day I was watching the kids like normal, and my coworker, who was changing diapers, and one of the boys grabbed the shit from the diaper and just threw it at the wall. And that room smelled so bad, even after we cleaned it up. And the worst part about this is my boss blamed me and my coworker. Safe to say, I'm never working with kids again. Yo, what was your boss on? Like, how would that even be your fault? Like, shit happens. Okay, no pun intended. So I used to work at McDonald's, and there were some awful customers there. And the utmost terrible one was this woman in her mid-30s or 40s. She started complaining about the food and all that. And she had this whole temper tantrum. So one day I've thought about how I've done nothing about it. So when I made her food, I took the nastiest spit I could possibly conjure somehow and then spat it in her drink and her burger. And I made sure that she ate it and drank it. And she never knew that the food had spit in it. I worked at McDonald's for about a year, and I had no idea how I even lasted that long. Almost all my managers were horrible, and they seemed to hate their life. When I did orientation, which was about 3 hours, I was told I was going to be paid for those hours. Fast forward several weeks later, those hours were missing from my pay. A month goes by, nothing. I tried confronting my manager about it, showing her the missing hours on my time card, and she just tried to gaslight me every single time I said something. And then finally, 9 months go by, and I received a check in the mail for that money. They finally realized that they didn't pay me after that long. I swear it's always McDonald's that's on some bullshit. Because my friends that have worked at McDonald's before have told me a lot of horror stories about it. One time when I was working at Target during 2014, and at this Target, these were the type of MFs that were just really strict, talking about how we had to smile to each and every single person. And there was this one asshole who was the manager. We'll call him Bubby. And this dude was always on our asses, bro. Whenever we opened up YouTube on break, he would always yell at us. One day, the other coworkers were just done with this dude. So they decide to prank him. How? By putting moldy cheese in his locker. 1 week later, the 6 dudes who did it were gone. What is the point of acting like this as a manager? I've never understood it. Who cares if somebody's watching YouTube on break? And as we speak, some of you are probably watching this on break right now. What do they want you to just stare at the wall the entire break? I work at Quick Trip, and our store was one of the biggest stores compared to the other ones around. And it was right off of an interstate. So there was a lot of people and truckers who, by the way, would throw piss and shit bottles in trash cans. But that's not the main story. So I'm working at the register, and it's Christmas Eve 2025. And luckily, I'm getting double pay for the holiday. However, there's many people in the store and just people in general traveling. So I'm scanning this lady's items and there's a line behind her. Then I see 3 people outside yelling. I don't do anything because I'm 16 at the time and I thought my manager would go and do something. They get inside and they're still yelling and hollering until eventually they go to the free zony section. And then one of the dudes just absolutely right hooks and knocks out the other person cold on the floor. Luckily, there was an off-duty cop in the store talking to the manager because they were friends and they just resolved it with the cameras and all that. And I got asked some questions and I gave a witness statement. And this is what happened. There was a gay couple and 2 dudes. The one who knocked the other guy out was 6'4". And then this trashy guy came up to him and started harassing them. And then it escalated inside and the rest was history. There's a lot of things I've seen, but this one stuck out to me since it happened right before Christmas. This dude really had nothing better to do than to start beef with random people at the gas station. He's really spending his days before Christmas just harassing people at the gas station. Okay, I remember this one time I was working as a lifeguard and I was in the break room with a couple of my homies. And then one of my friends, we'll just call him Tim, he came in with a water gun that he found on the ground in the water park. So we just started spraying people with it. And then my other homies just rush into the storage room and grab water guns, fill them up, and just start spraying it back. Our floors are super slippery when wet in the break room, and management hates it when they get wet. And our break room is literally a glass cube. So basically, you can see everything that's going on inside of there. Fast forward a couple of minutes, I see 3 supervisors and my boss walking super quickly towards the break room. It was my turn to go on the stand, and I didn't want anything to do with what was going on. So I quickly run out and just get to the stand as fast as possible. Now I hear from my position, since it was right outside of the break room, the people who just came into the break room are just losing it, and I couldn't help but laugh. It was super funny, honestly. I work at a plant nursery, which is run by my family. Last year, a peacock escaped from somebody's house/farm who was keeping him as a pet. And for some reason, it decided to stay in the nursery. It was quite unusual, but when I turned up to work one time, there was just a peacock chilling there. And they're not native to my country, but it decided to stick around. And as my coworkers were feed it, whenever it wasn't enough, it would just start causing all sorts of trouble. Like pulling all the plants out of the pots that someone just planted, standing and squishing all the plants, eating the vegetables, as well as just knocking things over. This one time, I think he was just sleeping in the greenhouse, and then my dad came into work. The peacock flew up onto the shelf where we kept the plant labels and tried to fly out of the greenhouse, but it couldn't find the door. So we just had to like herd it out of the door with a huge stick. The peacock also could tell which coworkers liked it and which didn't. So when it saw the assistant manager, it would just run for the hills like the Roadrunner in Looney Tunes. Luckily, this story did have a good ending though, as we didn't see the peacock for a while. And my mom talked to some of the neighbors, and luckily the peacock found its way back to the farm it was from. But for a while, it was crazy telling my friends about all the stuff that the peacock got up to. The odds of that are crazy. A peacock out of all animals, wow. But hey, I'm glad it had a good ending though. I worked as a janitor at a high school, and more than once, I was called to clean the biggest fucking pieces of feces you had probably ever seen in your life. I don't know what they were putting in those tacos. Yeah, man, that school lunch really can get wicked sometimes. That's gotta be some kind of life-altering experience, man. I feel bad. So a few years ago, when I was working at an ice cream shop to get some of my own money as a teenager, I took a little break because it was a very busy day. It was about 35 degrees Celsius outside, which is 95 in Fahrenheit. I walked outside, hit my vape, and I really felt bad about it because I'd promised myself to quit multiple times now. I was standing next to a trash container, so my dumbass stomped on the vape and threw it in there. Now, as I walked back into the shop, I heard an explosion. Almost everybody in the shop ran to see where it came from. And of course, it came from the trash container, which was on fire because the trash in there caught on fire. And apparently it was the battery in my vape that caused the explosion. I got fired 2 days later when I finally admitted that I threw my vape in there. I work at the arena where the LA Kings play. One time, a guy asked me to help him find a hoodie that he wanted in a size large. What we have out on the sales floor is all we have in stock for every style. So I told him that if it wasn't out on the bar he was looking for, then it was gonna be out of stock. Then this dude started to crash out on me and my coworker and said, "Look for it now because my bitch wife is blind and can't see the size tag. I don't trust this bitch." Me and my coworker told him that if he was gonna have an attitude, then we couldn't help him at all. Then he proceeded to throw a tantrum in our store and had to be walked out by our supervisor because he just kept yelling at us from across the store. These dudes really think there's just a magical compartment of items in the back. That is not the case, bro. Most stores don't even keep their items in the back. And also, it is not that deep. If you can't find it, bro, just order it online or something. There's no reason to scream at the workers and call your wife a bitch. Like, what the fuck was that about? I'm the Chuck E. Cheese employee from the Crash Out Stories video. I'm here to tell the funniest story from my time working there. So for some context, Chuck E. Cheese did a collab with Lanky Box. And basically, we ran their ghost kitchen, consisting of deep dish pizzas, wings, and mac and cheese. The food genuinely looked disgusting, and I couldn't even fathom eating it. Anyways, my coworker, we'll call Nate, came up with the bright idea to DoorDash Lanky Box to our other coworker's house. That being our other coworker, we'll call him Cooper. Everyone there, including me, was absolutely on board for this prank. So we took one of the deep dishes and placed a stick of cheese we normally use in our stuffed crust inside. So there was just a big lump inside the deep dish pizza, if it wasn't already unappetizing as it was. Then Nate took the poop emoji sticker and wrote a message saying, "Hi Cooper, you've been lanky boxed." Later, the Dasher arrives and Nate gave the Dasher a nice tip, and then she was telling us how he had tipped more than another person did for a $90 sushi platter. And this goes to show how great of a guy Nate is. Anyways, we text Cooper and tell him if there's anyone at the door, answer it. So the Dasher arrives at Cooper's place, except he was really confused because instead of the lanky box order, he showed up with a $90 sushi platter. The Dasher ended up mixing the order. We have no idea what became of that lanky box order, but I'd like to imagine it was some guy trying to have a nice sushi dinner with his girl, only to receive a deep dish pizza with a weird lump inside and a poop emoji sticker. The best part is the order was entirely refunded, so Cooper got all the sushi for free. So I guess the task failed successfully. No way. Oh my god. I didn't even know they did a lanky box collab. Imagine ordering DoorDash and then receiving a lanky box pizza with a poop emoji sticker on it. Honestly, I probably wouldn't have even been mad, man. I would have laughed my ass off. One day, while working my shift at Burger King, we were completely dried up for customers. A max of like 5 people came that day. But about 10 minutes before we were closed, some dude that was definitely tweaking out came inside. This guy came up to the counter and legit just jumped over and just started licking shit. It was only me and my friend, who we'll call Miguel. And when we told this guy to stop, he just looked up like a rabbit and just started running away very weirdly. Later that day, I went home and I saw this dude on the news and he got arrested for public nudity. And he was next to a road. I still don't understand what the heck happened that day. Yeah, I don't know what these tweakers are tweaking off of, man, but Jesus Christ, like what? I don't know what neurons fired off in his brain to make him do all this shit, but these tweakers gotta be stopped. When I was 14, I mowed lawns in the neighborhood. And how it would work is clients would reach out to my parents and they would inform me. One day, my parents told me that I had a new customer and that they would be out of town at the time of it. I was slightly skeptical, but they offered to pay me more and I agreed. So I got the address, and usually I knock on the door to confirm the job, but since there was no one there, I just went along with it. I started mowing their front and back lawn, but midway through the backyard, some old dude ran out holding some kind of weapon, and it looked like a baton or something. But anyways, he just started yelling slurs and shit, telling me to get off his property. So I left the lawnmower behind and just sprinted out. I called my dad to come pick me up, and once he got there, I realized it was their neighbor's house. My dad, being the absolute go he is, he talked it through with the guy, and we're all chill now. But I'm still so extremely embarrassed about it, and I'm lucky that I didn't get my kneecaps broken. I got hired at Domino's, and it was a Wednesday. And when we were closing up, this fat dude comes in and just starts ordering 20 pizzas. And me and my coworkers, we'll call them Jay and Tim, we were just all pissed off. So we were making them, and at this point, we were working overtime. And we're like 4 pizzas in, and then this fat-ass dude says, "Can you add extra cheese and pepperoni on all the pizzas?" So all 3 of us said sure, but we had a plan. Jay said, "Let's say we're gonna make them and then just leave in the back." So we did. I don't know how long this dude was standing there, but we were laughing so hard in the parking lot. Then the next day, we all got fired. But moral of the story is you have free will. 20 pizzas. Like, I get it. People have to throw their functions and all that, but it's right at closing, bro. There's so many other options. And also, I thought if you were ordering a lot of food like that, you'd have to call it in way in advance. You can't just pull up and say, "Hey, can I get 20 pizzas?" And not only that, you asked for extra cheese while they were making the pizza. So I work at a hair salon, not a barbershop, and I'm a guy. And it was Christmas. And if you don't know, on the holidays, there's a lot of work because everybody wants their hair done for family dinners, etc. And as I was working, there was a client that wasn't exactly crazy, but surely not okay. And when it was time to wash her hair, I told her to raise her head a little bit to wash the back of her head. And she went too far up and I got soaking wet and had to change. After that, I tell her to sit and I try to dry her hair because she wanted to style it. And she wouldn't let me because she said that she didn't want her hair to be dried. So I explained to her that I must dry her hair, and she says fine. And as I'm trying to dry her hair, she just starts moving her head on purpose. And then I just left and I told my coworker, you gotta do her hair. And luckily she agreed. And as an experienced hairstylist, she did it. Let me tell you that I was not getting paid enough to put up with that lady, especially after all that work. Not only that, during the holidays too, you have to just put up with that in the middle of your day. Like, you probably had so many people waiting too. So I work at a grocery store and I work in the customer service booth. And one day while this lady was shopping, she accidentally bumped into this guy's kid with their cart. And then the guy started yelling at her. And it started a full-blown scene in this aisle of the grocery store. And a lot of people were starting to turn their heads over. And even I looked to see what the hell was going on. And all of a sudden, this lady comes over. So me and my coworker were summoned. She tells the whole story and she says, oh, I accidentally bumped into this guy's kid, blah, blah, blah. And then she starts thinking that this guy was gonna pull out a gun on her. And we just both looked at each other confused because who the hell is gonna pull out a gun on somebody in a grocery store? She just started freaking out. At this point, the guy's probably over the situation. And she was like, can you call the police for me? And my coworker said, look, man, we can't do that. Nothing that insane happened to the point where we would need to call the cops. And after that, she kind of just got mad and walked off. Like, what are we supposed to do? Yeah, if you guys did call the cops, they were just gonna show up and be like, what's the problem? But yeah, the next one of these I'm gonna do is awkward moments part 2. I'm gonna leave the form in the description if you guys want to fill one out. And thank you all for the support lately. It's been insane. And in the meantime, if you really like these videos, I have a playlist of them right here on the end screen. Just click on it.